Hello, everyone. How are you guys? Welcome, everyone, that we have live here. Today, we're going to have a little bit of a different session. I've got with me our engineering and support team. I got Victor and Philip. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you, Isabella.
And they're going to talk to us a little bit about distributed systems. I'll let them take over in a bit, and I'll even step away. I think I'll leave the talk to you guys today. Just want to remind everyone that you feel free to comment on YouTube. Hey, Dan, I see you already there from Romania. Good to see you. Feel free to leave comments. I will keep an eye out on comments, and the guys will as well, but we'll definitely respond them at the end of the presentation as well. And I will also leave here on the comments our link to our Discord. If you have not joined yet, join us there. We can answer your questions there as well. So yeah, welcome once again. And Philip, why don't you tell us a little bit of what you guys are going to present to us today?
Okay, no problem. Absolutely. So for those who don't know who I am, so I'm Philip. I'm the senior engineer here at DataHub. So what is the idea for today? So a lot of customers in the last few years, they've been looking for our platform to solve a problem that is very common when you have different and distributed architecture. Think about you having a situation. Victor, if you don't mind sharing your display for us. So think about a situation where you have multiple stations, multiple places of operation where you want to collect the data. And for each one of these, you have individual visualization of your software. It's fine to think about that and say, well, it's okay because they are different platforms, they are different systems. But what if they are exactly the same thing, and the only difference in between of them is only the data that you are collecting? Not specifically the data may be the same. So we could have, let's think about, for example, here in a situation where we have rig platform collection, data being collected from oil platforms. So if we have something like ROP, we have RPMs, we have hole depth, we have bit depth. In that case, the data that we will collect on every well will be exactly the same. But the problem is the visualization will be the same, the data will be the same. The problem is the equipment where you're collecting the data from may be different. The addresses where that data will be collected can be different. So I can have an RPM being collected on a Modbus 4001 into rig 1, and I can have the same situation, like the same RPM being collected into a Modbus or even a ControlLogix, an OPC server from another device in another rig. But after all, it's still RPM. So the data, the way we create the data structure, the way we create the asset structure of our application is exactly the same. But where we go and we get this data from changes from one application to the other one. So that's the biggest challenge, because think about now, if I have to make changes into this project, like in the user interface, not specifically on the communication, I have to go into each individual project or solution that we have running and make a change. We can change like a color of a button. We can add a button. We can change a trend. We can do whatever we have to do in the visualization. And if we have like 300 stations being published and collecting data, all of those stations will have to be changed one by one manually. So that kind of creates a situation where you spend a lot of time working on something that could be way faster if you start thinking about distributed engineering. So for this, that's why I did bring Victor today. I want Victor to talk a little bit about distributed engineering and how we can solve this kind of problem. So let me lay out a little bit for us here what is the scenario that we have. Okay, Victor? So let's start very simple here. Let's creating 2 layers. Let's start creating these 2 layers here. Okay. So these 2 layers will be basically the layer that we will have the offset and the layer that we will have the rigs. Not the rigs, but it can be any kind of operation. Okay. So we have here the operation, and we have that on the top. We have the offset. Okay, good. In that scenario, I want to have, for example, here on the bottom, different applications collecting data from different places. So I have Modbus, and I have here application 1, I have application 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and I have these guys here collecting data for me. In this case, as I mentioned, it can be anything. It can be Modbus, it could be OPC, ControlLogix, or anything that we want to use here. It doesn't really matter. Let's put here code sys. Okay, so it doesn't really matter where this data is coming from. And what we want, after all, is to have this data here on the top of the layer being visualized in an offset place, and having the capability to choose where I want to see this data from. So I want to see from operation number 1, 2, 3, or 4. And then the operations, they have different layers and they have different, same UI, basically same user interface, but collecting data from different places. So,
okay,
Victor, yeah, go ahead. Explain for us how we can, like, which features of FrameworX we can use and how we can kind of guide our customers to figure out this kind of problem.
we have here 2 problems at least. The main ones are collecting all data and showing at the Office UI. And the second problem is to how can I edit one project and apply these changes to all of them without needing to configure all the devices communications again. So in FrameworX, we do have a couple options to show data in the UI, centralized data. The main one that we should talk about today is DataHub. Through DataHub, we can collect data from each of the edge devices and centralize them, all of them, in a unified namespace. And then I can use another solution, getting the data from the DataHub from this unified namespace, and display on screen depending on which edge do you want to show. And for the second problem, to be able to edit the solutions so that I can edit only one solution and apply to all of them, we can use a feature called solution modularization. And what this means is, instead of having, at the moment, I have one project, right? How can I separate them? We do have a functionality that you can separate 2 projects. You get this project and divide them in 2. And then all that you need to do is have the same name of the project. Both projects need to have the same name. Only one difference, if I call the first project, let me see, Tech Tuesday. This is the project Tech Tuesday, so I can do this following. I can get another project and add this underline, and underline again. With this format, when I do run the first project, the second one is going to be merged into it, and then you only need to run the first one. I only need to run Tech Tuesday, and all the configuration of the devices are going to be merged in this first project.
Vitor, do you mind zooming in a little bit for us so it could be easier for us to visualize? Because it's a little bit too far away. It's kind of, yeah, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so basically you're telling me that if we use the modularization, we can have two different projects, one basically with the communication, and the other one with all the user interface, alarm configuration, tag asset, and everything else that you need that would be similar to all the projects. And you can separate those two layers into two different projects. And when you run the first one, that would be the Tech Tuesday project, it would automatically integrate all the device communication into the main project to make it as if it's a one project only.
Yes, that's correct. That's exactly how it works. We do have some configurations that need to be taken care of, but the main thing is that if I have the communication separately, if I do have this project separate, I can now, if I want to add to this project and make it smaller, make it green, whatever you want, I can just after the fact, after I do the modifications that I need, I just copy this and paste it on all the other projects, the same thing. So in the end, all the operations that you need to do, instead of having to modify the UI 300 times or 200 times, you only need to do once, and after you just copy and paste and deploy to every single station that you have.
Okay,
This,
cool. Yeah, that's
this is
pretty
going
cool.
this is going to be way faster than editing every project by hand. And this is the main function of this modularization. You gain a lot of speed and when editing your projects. And
Yes, because basically once you make the changes on the main project or your project that you have, like one project, then you make the changes on that, you just need basically to copy and replace the other 300 stations that you have, right?
yes, that's correct. And and then you let me see. I
So
can
how do I publish this data now? So once I have this data being collected, what would be the tools that FrameworX can provide for us? Let's talk a little bit about the tools, how, like, which tools we provide to move this data from the bottom layer to the top layer.
from I at this point I would like to talk about DataHub. This is the main function that I am going to use to do this communication. There is other ways. This is not the only way to do it, but I would like to talk about DataHub in this opportunity. What what DataHub does is the following: you have your projects, each of your edge solutions, each, your, each of your edge devices are going to be published into one IP and port, and you have the Office UI collecting this data from these specific ports, and you can see this data live. So all the configuration that is needed is the, the IP and port that you need. And in the Office UI, we are going to need to use a tag provider collecting data from these solutions. And then at the UI, you can input data as assets. You don't need tags. You don't need to have any tags in your UI project. You only connect via DataHub,
Yeah,
and
data.
then you have dynamic data.
So the data hub works like if it was a tag provider getting the data from different stations.
Yes.
Cool.
And then in the end, you are going to end up with all your projects communicating to the main process via DataHub.
Okay.
Something like that.
That's interesting. And do I need any kind of like an external piece of hardware or software to have the data hub running? Or is that some like part of the FrameworX application?
No, this come with the software, and no need to install anything new. No hardware is necessary. It's just a functionality that we do have available.
Okay, that's interesting. And you mentioned it before that we have other ways to do that. We're gonna show a little bit of the data hub on the configuration of that. But if we think about what other ways would we have, not only with FrameworX today, but even previous version of FrameworX, what would be the other ways? What could you like on top of your mind think another way to do that? The same scenario, just for us to look at these scenarios and try to see like the data hub functionality bring us some facilities, some easy way to perform what we're trying to do and to achieve what we're trying to achieve. But in the past, it was also possible. It was way more complicated than using the new features and the new tools that we have in frameworks today. So on top of your head, how other features you can remember? I'm going to start with one, okay? I'm going to start with the data access. So previously, since version 9 something, or maybe even 8, we had, version 8 for sure, we had something that was a data access. We had the capabilities to call script classes from one project, like in one project, we call script classes from another project. So that capability that we had in the past, we could have a data collector on the office level, on the top layer of this architecture. We could have one project that receives the data and store locally somewhere, or just creates visualization. That was one way that we could do in the past using the data access. What other way would you think about?
You could, if real-time data, it's not actually, it's not priority. The priority is not real-time data. You could use database, and you can publish to a database, and then after the fact collect the data. So in the database, you would have data from all of your edge devices, and then your UI, your Office UI, would be collecting this data and showing on screen. It's even possible to publish this data from each of these devices via through an MQTT broker, and then after you can, in the UI, again, collect this data and display on screen. We do have, there is a lot of ways that you can achieve this. The data hub functionality, I do like that because of the ease of use that we do provide with it. So it's one simple checkbox in the edge devices.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the configuration is one checkbox and the IP that you need to publish to. And at the UI, it's again just set up a tag provider and begin collecting data.
Okay.
The configuration takes literally 5 minutes.
Yeah, and also like as we can see, like basically the data hub technology, it brings the ease of use to configure. That I will ask you to show a little bit about that and explain a little bit how you do configure things. But if we look at the other options that we just mentioned, like having a database in the middle of that, think about that, Vitor. What do you think? Like for you, it's a question like if you have one database. In that example, you were mentioning having those guys, like if you're not really worried about real-time data. So you have all of those lower layer level publishing the data to the SQL Server or any other database. Imagine how many connections you would have on that database, and you would have to manage that. Usually when you work with the databases, the amount of connection really matters. Creating a lot of instances and connections into database usually creates a problem with performance. With DataHub, you don't have to worry about that because the system is designed to do that. So, and you don't have to create multiple instances and connections with the database. You're connecting with the FrameworX DataHub. And that's basically something that enable you to have a really, really good performance on your application. And of course, once you have the data coming to your Office application, your top layer of the architecture, you can definitely historize that data locally if you need that. And then you can easily manage that data that is coming from the lower level. So do you mind showing for us a little bit how you do configure the data hub and what exactly is the steps to do that? You don't need to go too deep into that. Just give us a brief overview on that.
That's okay. It's quite easy. Let me show you. I do have here a solution that is already configured, but let me open another. Let me find my solution manager. Here it is. So I have here the projects, as I mentioned. I have Tech Tuesday, and Tech Tuesday with this project is the one that have the device configuration, and this is my UI. So at my UI, let me just open it. Here. All the configuration that is needed. Let me just stop so that I can show the configuration. It's running at the moment. So we do have here published to DataHub. It's okay. This is the only configuration that is needed. I do select this checkbox, and then here I do have to configure the host IP and the part that I want to use it. You can also set access key or a secondary host, and the top application layer is going to see this name. The alias is the name that is going to be seen in the top application layer. In this case, I'm just using our macro solution name. So it will copy the name of the solution and publish to the DataHub services. So if I start this, and then I go to the other solution, this is my top application layer, as you mentioned. And I do have to come here in unify namespace. Let's wait the screen. Okay. So here I basically need to create a new tag provider as a data hub. You do need to specify the port and the access key if you set one before. I will cancel so that I just don't create another one. So I have here the configuration. It's only this. The tag provider is already configured. I only have to come here, add a new folder, data, and then I will need to link my tag provider that I configured to this folder. So I just select this and press OK. If you then open this, thinking.
Yeah, I probably have another display there.
Yep. So here I can already see the information from the Tech Tuesday one, the project that it's publishing data, and I have here the tags. So if I do here and clean the values, I can see that is already set to 0. So the speed is very good. We had a lot of improvements at the performance of DataHub recently, so it's even better. So now the Tech Tuesday should just come online. So I do have another project. I have two projects publishing data to the main application. And at runtime, we do can see here, I have Tech Tuesday 1, collecting data and showing on screen. This is just a simple screen. The data are not meaningful at all. And I can simply sweep, change, change between screens and see the data from each one of my my edge devices. Really easy, really simple to do. Just to complete, if I come to the display, all the configuration that is needed to show the tag,
It's basically an asset.
It's just an asset, just a string. You can always check this string via this object browser that we do provide. If you come to alias, and then here I can just select the asset that I want and copy, so that is easy to paste on screen. So I can here come in so that there is no misspell or anything. So it's really quite easy to use. It's just that, and your application is running.
Okay.
And communicating data.
So wrapping that together, basically to create the lower level of the layer that on our architecture, basically what I have to do is, number one, having the first project that is your user interface projects. Okay.
Yep.
Number two would be having the second project that is the devices project, using the underscores in between that. So basically it's the name of the project, underscore, and then
the name between underscores do not matter. Could be anything.
Okay, so it can be anything. So what matters for us is making sure that we have the same name on both projects, the first piece of that. So the prefix is exactly the same, underscore, whatever is the name of the second device, and then underscore again. What it does is, go back to your drawing, please. Okay, so basically what this one is doing is, you have this main project is here. It is basically getting your second project that is something like this. Okay, and we are putting them together, like inside, as if they were just one. Okay.
Yes.
So that's what that configuration is doing basically. Once that is done, the next step is to configure the DataHub. To configure the DataHub, so basically you showed me that I just need to do a simple checkbox configuration and put like the IP and the port for where it's publishing the data, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so that's the third step. The next step is already basically on the top layer. So the bottom layer is basically 3 steps to make this data flow from 2 different projects to a top layer. Okay? In the top layer, basically, the only thing we have to do is create a tag provider services to get this data from the different stations that are publishing that.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
I do think that is worth mentioning. As DataHub, it's getting the different projects via the project name. And the idea here is that we have as little as possible, as little work as possible to deploy all of these projects. Using this configuration, the only thing that you need to do, if I want to do, for example, a change on the display, if I do want any modification done to this project, what would be the steps? Let's do a simple edit here. Oh, this is already running. Let me just find it. Here it is. So my display is loading. If I do want to add anything else in this project, like update, this could be literally anything. I just need to save this display and close the solution to make sure that my file is saved correctly. And so here I do have another computer. This Tech Tuesday one is running in my main computer. In my secondary computer, I do have the Tech Tuesday 2 running. So I will stop the solution.
Okay.
I will upload the file from my computer to the secondary computer. After this is done, I will, as the UI is the same, the only thing that is changed is the number after the name. So I will delete the project that it was running. I will add the name of this project. This is just for the DataHub to be able to differentiate between each device. And I will paste in the same folder that it already was. I will update this and run the project again. I don't need to even open the configuration of this project.
So basically just replacing the project and keeping the same name would be enough to have like all the projects in my lower level on my lower layer updated.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here you already see I have the update label that I set before, and the project is already running. It's already communicating with the device that was set to communicate, and this is all the configuration that you need to do to deploy a new functionality to all your projects is this: a simple copy paste and a rename in this case.
Okay, cool. And we did talk about rigs and oil and gas industry, but do you see this type of architecture being something that we could apply for other industries? And if so, what industries do you think on top of your head? And if you don't have any on that, just tell me. But where would you see that being applied in other industries, not only oil and gas?
It's basically at anything that is repeatable. If you have a factory in two different countries that produce the exact same thing with the exact same process, the data that you are collecting from these both factories is going to be the same. So, I don't know, beer production and anything that is highly serializable, it's easy to do. It is a possible configuration to use like this.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we could easily replicate that same scenario for like energy, pharmaceutical, food and beverage, the car industry, the auto industry, any industry that, as you said, like the processes are repeatable. So you're collecting the same data from different sources, right?
Yes. Okay. If the data is the same, this solution works just fine.
Okay, cool. And when you download FrameworX, DataHub becomes already embedded on the application, or does it have any kind of extra cost that you have to pay on your license to have access to this feature?
No, there is no extra costs. The DataHub it's free to use after you buy the solution.
So I can build an entire application using my 4 hours runtime license, so using DataHub, and just need to buy the license when I really go to production, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, that's also pretty cool. All right. Is there something else you would like to add on this?
No.
You've been working a lot of DataHub lately, right?
Yes, I have. I do have a big project that is going to live soon. So it's a functionality that I being able to test and do a lot of stress tests, and the capability of DataHub it's really good. It's really reliable at the moment,
Uh-huh.
and it is a solution that I like to use, and I think it's really cool and really easy to use actually.
Cool. And you've been using that only for tags, or let me change the question. Not what you've been using that, but when I use a data hub, I only have the capability to do tags, or I have access to other information like alarms, whatever, data sets. What else the data hubs bring to me besides tags? Because of tags, we're talking tags, but tags could be done. All of them could be done just by a basic protocol like factory studio to factory studio. What else the data hub adds in the architecture for me?
We have a very ample integration with DataHub. So as you can
Mm-hmm.
see here, we have alarm data, uh, so I can display all alarms that are online at my edge devices
Yeah.
at real time. It, all the alarm configurations are available here. You do have device
Yeah.
configuration. You have access to this project is running Modbus. If I go to this other project, it's running just a value simulator. It's
Okay.
our embedded protocol. I have a lot of different information about the project, the solution. So I can come here to solution. I have name, family, enterprise, the license that I am using. A lot of some settings I do have available as well. Server information I do have as well. So
Mm-hmm.
there is a lot of information available to
And one
to
question: when we talk about alarms, I know like in a regular project where you just have your alarms running locally, you can just go to your. So I'm better than that. I'm not gonna ask. I'm gonna make an affirmation here. When you have a project running locally and you have alarms happening on that, you can basically go there and acknowledge your alarms and you can work with them. And when you use a data hub, it's something very interesting that you can do that too. So you can, for example, acknowledge an alarm on your data hub that is coming and is happening on your edge devices. So if you have
yes,
your user interface showing the alarms of that station that you did select for that, you can acknowledge those alarms and you can interact with those inside the display. That's also something pretty nice that we can do. And the historian is also something interesting because we can only do historian, at least in the few moments ago we talk about historian, talk about the database. But when we talk about the data hub, if the historian is configured locally on this bottom layer of our application, you can easily access that information from the top layer too.
yes, you can. The data hub it's a bidirectional services, so you can read and write tags, or just read or just write. So
Mhm. That's
you
why we can interact with the alarms.
yes, the communication is two-way. It's
The only thing I think it's necessary in this case would be like I saw then making a question about the if data hub is free, as Vitor mentioned. Yes, it's free for this architecture. The only thing that we would need, basically thinking about licenses, is one license into the office, right, and the other one is in the edge. Okay, right.
yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, so basically that's what it would be.
You would have a license for each ad, but yeah,
Hmm.
that's basically it.
Yeah, if you look at our pricing page inside our platform, if you go to tetsoft.com/pricing 10.1, you see that there is like a explanation on there, talking a little bit. how the details of the license would work for that. Yeah.
Come up with that.
Do you have easy access to that to the pricing list, so we could briefly talk about that? Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Now scroll down a little bit. Go basically all the way all the way down. So keep going. There we go. A little bit up. Up. There we go. So here's when you talk about distributed systems. So that's the type of license that you would need to environment like that. It has a different price, and so it's interesting to take a look at that, because that's a license specifically for the DataHub. The DataHub is free for use when you have downloaded the software and everything, but when you need to move forward, there is a special license for that if you need. You don't really need to buy like a full license if that's not the case. All right. Do we have any other questions? All right, that's coming questions. Let's take a look on that. So this is the DataHub.
I'll put it here on chat as well.
Okay, that's in the chat. Perfect. So suppose data governance and metadata management companies could attach software KS systems if it acts as an MCP client to use the DataHub MCP servers should
get
context about data flowing through a SCADA system. Definitely, if you configure your top layer application to be, because basically using on the top layer of your application, using the DataHub is not different than using a tag provider looking for a broker. Our demo, our MCP demo, basically shows how you connect it to your MCP server and how you do the connection. The data is coming from a broker. So that's not different from our demo, okay? Then the only difference is basically the other layer that is being added. That our demo basically we show the MQTT broker, we're collecting data through tag provider from the broker. In this case, the data is not coming from the broker, it's coming from the other layer, the bottom layer that is publishing through the DataHub. Once the data is inside the FrameworX, inside the software on the top layer, it would be absolutely possible to use the MCP tools to get this data and to provide information on that.
Perfect. Got Andrew with a question.
Let's take a look. If you had two frameworks in two separate factories recording information at the factory level, could you then use the DataHub connect to duplicate all the data into a single frameworks at the enterprise? Let me see if I understood the question, Andrew. Just 1 second. Yes. That those layers, that bottom layer that we showed, they don't really need to be in the same factory. Okay. Actually, if we were talking about oil and gas industry, you're basically collecting data from different rigs all around the world. You know, those rigs can be anywhere. As long as they have access to the top layer of your architecture, you can definitely do that.
Awesome. And I do think he complemented it later with just data.
Yeah. That's the historian capability that the DataHub providers also. Yes, absolutely.
That is awesome. One more here in what Andy's asking, usable in a store and forward scenario?
That's a good question, Alexander. Because in some scenarios like store and forward, you store the data locally to provide this data lately. All right. The DataHub itself at this moment, it does not include any type of storing forward because we are talking about real-time data. So storing the data in the bottom level of the layer is not really what we are interested at this point. Vitor, how could you see that collecting data using store forward scenario in this? Do you see any scenario where we could store and forward this data locally in the lower level of the architecture and then use it when needed, when the connection is established back again for the top level?
You can use. I do think this is two different scenarios. Basically,
Exactly.
you have you starting forward at the edge level, and then after this is one thing, and DataHub is kind of separately.
Yeah.
So DataHub is communicating, and the storage forward is working as would normally.
Yeah, because when you have the data hub, basically you have two options. You can store your data locally on the lower level of your architecture, or you can put that centralized on the top level of your architecture. Um, when you centralize that on the top level, you may run without data for at some point if your connection is lost. But if you put that data on the bottom level, as I mentioned, you can access that information, that historical information, through your user interface on the top level using the data hub. So that's kind of the nice thing about that is you don't really need to rely on the communication between the two layers to make sure your data will be there, because you don't really need to send the data to the top layer to collect the data, to store the data. You can store locally on the bottom level of the of your layer, your lower level, and then you access that historian through the data hub.
Nice.
Got it, Andrew.
Yeah, Andrew just wanted to ask it, but YouTube does limit you guys' comments. But everybody seems to be in the same, having the same thoughts. So good to see.
Yeah, but those are really nice questions. Thank you, all of you for the questions. Absolutely,
Those are
that's
good. I will give everyone like
mine.
a last minute to think of any questions. I will say I already put in here the link to this Discord. Feel free to ask us questions there. We're always keeping an eye out. We can definitely help with more specific technical information questions if you guys have them. Um, can always just reach out as well. I'll leave my email on chat as well anytime, guys. If you have any question or if you have any suggestions for topics for Tech Tuesdays, please do let me know. I would love to hear from you. Philip and Victor, thank you so much for being here. I
Absolutely.
want to see
Thank you
if
for
you guys have
inviting
any
me.
last
No
thoughts
problem.
on the distributed architecture side of stuff before we wrap up. And I would say Andrew did say that enterprise historian sync is definitely something that you should think about in the future. So for sure, we'll add it to the
Yeah,
roadmap
absolutely.
and discuss it as a team. But yeah, any last thoughts, guys, before I kind of wrap this up?
No, just thank you, Isabella, for inviting us. Thank you, Vitor, to join us today. This Tech Tuesday, it's happening every Tuesday, and it's every week we have something new to show you guys. This today we tried to show a little bit more on the application level instead of only focus on technology and focus on tools that we have. So we really appreciate your feedback from you guys, like telling us what kind of content would like to see on the next Tuesdays, and we will meet you guys here.
Thank you, Dan, for he says top quality like always from your side, so I appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. As always, this will be recorded and available in full in our YouTube channel, so you guys can rewatch it. And like I said, we're always here. Let's continue the conversation, and I will see you guys next Tuesday. So thank you guys, and have everyone a good day.
Thank you.
Bye bye.